Hello, I'm Esther Gidhu Yuwat. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. Africa 54 looks at issues that separate U.S. presidential candidates Joe Biden and Donald Trump, among them NATO. New Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, recently freed from prison, takes the oath of office. And April 2nd is Autism Awareness Day, an internationally recognized day to spread awareness about the disease. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. As NATO marks its 75th anniversary this week, the alliance and America's role in European security are issues that separate U.S. presidential candidates Joe Biden and Donald Trump. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns has our story.
75 years after its start, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization remains the most direct U.S. engagement in European security. Founded after the Second World War, NATO originally joined the United States and 11 European nations in promising to come to each other's aid if any one of them is attacked. Then U.S. President Harry Truman.
If there is anything certain today, if there is anything inevitable in the future, it is the will of the people of the world for freedom and for peace.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine, NATO's response, and what it says about America's role in European security separate U.S. presidential candidates Joe Biden and Donald Trump. When he was president, Trump told NATO leaders they were not paying enough for their own protection.
The one that benefits really the least is the United States. We benefit the least. We're helping Europe. Europe unites and they go against a common foe. That may or may not be a foe. Can't tell you that. But there are other foes out there also.
5 years later, Trump told a campaign rally in South Carolina that getting tough with NATO members worked.
NATO was busted until I came along. I said, everybody's going to pay. They said, well, if we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? I said, absolutely not. They couldn't believe the answer. And everybody, you never saw more money pour in.
NATO has grown since the Trump administration. Sweden and Finland joined the alliance in the last year or so, in its biggest expansion since the fall of the Soviet Union allowed Eastern European countries to join NATO. Biden says standing up to Russian aggression together shows NATO is working.
Before the war started, I told Putin that if he invaded Ukraine, NATO would not only get stronger, but would get more united. And he would see democracies in the world stand up and oppose his aggression and defend the rules-based order. And that's exactly what we're seeing today.
As president, Trump prioritized relations with Russia and Vladimir Putin. Campaigning for a second term, he recalled a NATO leader asking about Russian threats.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
Biden says that approach to European security is dangerous for America.
A former Republican president tells Putin, quote, do whatever the hell you want. That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous. It's dangerous and it's unacceptable.
Trump told the conservative British television network GB News that he backs NATO if everyone pays their fair share.
If they play fair, if they start to play fair, America's there.
Yes, 100%, 100%.
Thank you.
Biden says NATO is stronger and more united than ever and is central to the foreign policy goals of his re-election campaign. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
Senegal's President-elect Bassirou Diomaye Faye was inaugurated at the country's National Conference Center in Diamniadio on Tuesday, the same day outgoing President Macky Sall's mandate ends. The inauguration completed the previously little-known opposition figure's rise from prison to the palace. Faye was released from prison less than 2 weeks before the March election following a political amnesty announced by Sall. It is the former tax inspector's first time in elected office. Faye campaigned on promises to clean up corruption and better manage the country's natural resources. Faye's victory is seen as reflecting the will of young people frustrated by widespread unemployment. For more insight into the new president of Senegal, VOA correspondent Mariama Diallo is standing by in Dakar. Mariama, what is expected to be President Faye's first big test?
Well, that's a very interesting question and a very good question, because I asked this question to an analyst about priorities. What would be this new president's priorities? And he said to me, you know what, in Africa, everything is a priority. And I actually don't even think it's just in Africa. I'm sure every new president that takes office, has a lot of priorities, and it's hard to kind of figure out, which one to tackle first. But for him, certainly having had a lot of the young people who voted for him, I would think that he would think about their needs and their demands, the reason why they voted for him, the reason why, they were part of who elected him at over 54% in the first round. So these kids want jobs. They want to know what the president is going to do for them to alleviate this high cost of living, to make sure that their future is also, they have something to hold on to. So I think definitely for the young people, certainly jobs and how to take care of them should be, or would be, I would think, one of his priorities.
Mariama, the next big task for the president is to elect his cabinet. Do we know who is likely to get key cabinet positions?
That's another excellent question, and $1 million question, and a question that is in everybody's mind. Why? Because we know that President Bassirou Diomaye Faye did campaign with the other opposition leader, Ousmane Sonko, who is basically the reason why Diomaye Faye was elected, why he is the person who's going to be leading the country in the next 5 years. So I think a lot of people are wondering, what cabinet position is Sonko going to have? What contribution is he going to have in this new government? But not just him. It was a coalition. So a lot of people worked hard to make sure that their coalition would win. And I'm sure everybody is figuring out, this is just the first day, but I'm sure they've thought about it, and we'll know as soon as those names are published or are chosen, basically.
Mariama, briefly, what role is he likely to play in the West African region?
Well, I think given today and what you saw today, the leaders that participated, from the Sierra Leone president to the two Guineas, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, you had leaders from Ghana, from Nigeria. So basically, the ECOWAS kind of group. I think, what happens here, the region has been plagued with a lot of coups, justified or not justified, it depends on who you talk to. So his leadership, it remains to be seen what kind of leadership he's going to be playing in the region. But certainly the people who attended show that certainly he might, be able to have a higher role, a bigger leadership role. So I guess we'll find out in the next weeks or months, depending on developments in this region.
Mariama, many thanks. Mariama Diallo is a VOA correspondent reporting live for us from Dakar, Senegal. A new dawn is emerging in Senegal, with Bassirou Diomaye Faye being sworn in as the new leader. Bassirou Diomaye Faye has never held elected office as he prepares to take the helm of a nation struggling with a faltering economy. For more insight, VOA's Paul Diho spoke with Mundia Paul Hakola, a political analyst based in Lusaka, Zambia.
It's a very good thing to see that we are going to have we are having actually an inauguration of the new president of Senegal. This just gives us hope as a young people to say it's possible for us to be able to do this. And every other leader in Africa that is outgoing should be able to be magnanimous enough to be able to transfer power. What is happening right now is historical. And as you see it to be historical, is because of the efforts also that has been put by the other leader. Because if there were no such efforts, such transfer would not have happened. So to us, we also call upon the regional leaders in the region, within the AU, to be able to encourage such kind of acts, so that we are going to have a more stable Africa.
There are a lot of young people in Africa who are probably watching this inauguration and they say, no condition is permanent. For those people who are in the trenches, especially young people who are rising up in the ranks of their political parties, trying to fight these long-time leaders, there is hope at the end of the day. When you see what's happening in Senegal today, what would you tell those young people?
The journey of 1,000 miles begin with a step. They need to be participating. They need to be in structures. They need to be in the, activism groups. They need to start doing something, because you don't just become. He didn't just become and became president overnight. He had to go through a number of processes. And what I will encourage young people is that those processes, they make you stronger. They make you understand some of the things that you are able to do.
I watched the video of the outgoing Senegalese president, Mr. Macky Sall, and the incoming president. I was overcome with emotion because this is a young man who has been treated unfairly, locked up on trumped-up charges, and here he is for the first time in his life stepping foot in the State House. It says a lot, and maybe perhaps a lot of African leaders need to watch stuff like that and learn from it.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, what is important is that when you lose an election, you realize that it's bigger than you, and there has to be peaceful transfer of power. And having conceded defeat, we give kudos to the outgoing president, because in Africa, we have seen people giving wrong advice to say, why did you give up power? So the fact that he had to actually leave the office and willing to hand over the power, we are of the view that that is very important, and it needs to continue, and people need to give kudos for leaders who are able to actually ceremoniously transfer power. Despite whatever happened, the most important end part is that power is going to be transferred, and there is no resistance to give up power. That is key.
Mundia Paul Hakola is a political analyst based in Lusaka, Zambia. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah El-Sisi was sworn in Tuesday before Parliament for his third term in office as leader of the Arab world's most populous country. In power for the past decade, El-Sisi is set to remain president until 2030 after winning a December election with over 89% of the vote. The 6-year term is set to be the 69-year-old last unless he again ushers through a constitutional amendment prolonging his tenure. Local media says the oath also marked the inauguration of Egypt's new administrative capital located in the desert east of Cairo. Now, ahead of one-year anniversary of the conflict in Sudan, the U.S. says the warring parties are both undermining aid operations and ignoring a Security Council call for an immediate cessation of hostilities. Meanwhile, deadly clashes between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces drag on. The news industry in war-torn Sudan have suffered a devastating blow, with media facilities destroyed and many journalists losing their lives amid the fighting. For more on the conflict in Sudan, Raga Makawi, a Sudanese editor and researcher, joins me from Egypt. Raga, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Esther, for having me.
Now, what has this war done to your country as you mark one-year anniversary since it started?
Absolutely devastating, Esther. The images that are coming out of Khartoum show a decimated city, and in this decimation, nothing has been saved. We're talking public facilities, public infrastructure, hospitals, clinics, schools, even monuments like museums and archives. They've all been targeted, destroyed, affecting the very structure of the nation post-war. Private institutions, civic institutions, and private-owned buildings, property has also been targeted. People's houses destroyed, but worse still, the very essence of Sudanese civil society, so the clubs, the libraries, the public libraries, the political party headquarters, private businesses like shops and otherwise have all been destroyed. And it's good to remind people who don't know much about Sudan that since its independence 70 years ago, Sudan has never relied on the state to set up its public infrastructure for it. Right. Most of these civic institutions have been put together through communal support.
Raga, we're having a little trouble with your audio, but I do want to ask you, because I understand that you are soon going to be publishing a paper on the rapid support forces. Can you give us a brief on exactly what you are going to be publishing this about?
Together with research projects, we are trying the presence of the rapid support forces on the ground, specifically in places like Khartoum, to get a sense of how they are managing the day-to-day setup of governance activities. So basically how they the ins and outs of daily life and how they interact with the general public on a daily basis in Khartoum. It's very important to try and understand for post-war realities, or even now. I mean, if the humanitarian or the international community is interested in providing any sort of humanitarian, it's important to understand the very reconstitution of the public space in Khartoum and how the RSF.
Right, Raga, I think we're going to have to revisit this. We're having a kind of difficult technical issues from your end, but thank you very much for talking to us. Raga Makawi is a Sudanese editor and researcher. The first vessel trapped in the port of Baltimore was seen leaving through a temporary channel Monday after ship traffic had been stopped by last week's catastrophic bridge collapse. The tugboat Crystal Coast was shown pushing a fuel barge through the channel past the bridge wreckage, heading to Dover Air Force Base in the U.S. state of Delaware to supply jet fuel, according to the Key Bridge Response Unified Command. Baltimore's shipping channel has been blocked since a fully loaded container ship lost power and collided with the support column of the Francis Scott Key Bridge last Tuesday, killing 6 road workers and causing the highway bridge to tumble into the Patapsco River. The cause of the incident is under investigation. Still to come, it's cherry blossom season here in Washington. We'll have a report. Stay with us.
This week on Straight Talk Africa, the United States and South Africa have long enjoyed a strong relationship, but recent disagreements over the actions of the Israeli military in Gaza and Russia's invasion of Ukraine have caused a rift. How will this affect the future of US-South Africa relations, and how might it impact the upcoming presidential elections in the Southern African nation? Join me, Heidi Adams, on the next Straight Talk Africa.
In other news, the Kenya Public Hospital doctors' strike is now in its 3rd week. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentist Unions, which represents over 7,000 members, went on strike on March 15th to demand payment of their salary arrears. South Africa's parliamentary speaker is facing imminent arrest over corruption charges after a court on Tuesday dismissed her bid to block police and prosecutors from arresting her. Nosiviwe Mapisa Nkakola is accused of receiving bribes from a defense contractor while she was defense minister. And let me get my script. And the Democratic Republic of Congo has its first woman prime minister, according to a state television announcement. Planning Minister Judith Suminwa Tuluka, an economist, takes over as prime minister from Jean-Michel Samalukonde, following President Felix Tshisekedi's sweeping re-election on December 20th. Springtime is here in Washington, usually promising a spectacular display of cherry blossoms. However, this year's scene has taken an unexpected twist with fewer blooms than anticipated, a reminder of the growing impact of climate change. Despite this, the U.S. Capitol remains vibrant with visitors and locals. We get more on this story from VOA's Kali Abdu and Sims Lumami.
It's springtime in Washington, D.C., a season highly anticipated in a city that offers a delightful, diverse palette of experiences beyond the famed cherry blossoms. Visitors and locals alike welcome the warm embrace of the season, finding joy and community in the capital's open spaces, museums, and vibrant streets.
For my nieces who live in Florida, and my mom and I, we're taking them on this tour of DC today. We do this every year. We come to DC, my mom and I, to enjoy the cherry blossoms. This year, not much cherry blossoms around, a little bit disappointed, but it's still a beautiful day in DC.
Niha, visiting from Canada, reflects on the cherry blossoms and the vibrant life of DC during spring.
So we do have cherry blossom back in Canada as well, and I know it's the mark of spring, and we call it sakura and multiple other names. It's always beautiful to see, great photo ops for us. We did expect a lot more sakura this time, which is cherry blossom this time, but nevertheless, it is starting to blossom. It's always beautiful to see so many people out and about during this time.
Magdalena, a DC resident, compares this year's spring vibe to previous years, emphasizing the community spirit.
I'm just been with my family, and we're walking around, and we're just visiting like the festival. So we've been here. We were here about 2 years ago, so it's pretty busy. Like 2 years ago, it was like the COVID, so it was like less people.
The allure of spring in Washington, D.C. creates a mosaic of stories from across the country, drawing people from every corner to experience its unique spring bloom.
I'm here visiting my aunt for my spring break for high school. You don't see as many people out here with different color skin, different places they're from.
As someone who lives in the area, I think that we are in the middle of the world. We're the center of the universe. This is where decisions are made that affect the entire world. And so it's a part of being in DC, you grab attention. And if we have tourists coming here, it means economy is better, the restaurants are full.
This spring may be different from past years, but the city's capacity to adapt and flourish remains unchanged. Beyond the cherry blossoms, there's a world of springtime experiences waiting to be discovered, each telling its own story of renewal and connection. With Sims Lumami, this is Kali Abdu, VOA News, Washington, D.C.
It's time for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with the latest on autism. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. April 2nd is Autism Awareness Day worldwide, a day set aside to spread awareness about autism and support those suffering from it. This year's theme is Empowering Autistic Voices. Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disorder characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, and speech and nonverbal communication. About 1 in 100 children has autism worldwide, according to the World Health Organization. Observers say autism cases around the world are rising, with more children diagnosed every day and accessing treatment. However, much remains to be done to enable children in some communities to access needed treatment and care. For more insight on autism, Virginie Kassiama, founder of JECC Behavioral Center in North Andover, Massachusetts, joins me live via Skype. Hello, Virginie.
Hello, Ms. Linard. Thank you for having me here.
It's great to have you. Listen, today is World Autism Day, and as I mentioned, the theme is Empowering Autistic Voices. What is the significance of this theme this year for you?
Thank you for the question. This theme, as a mother, as a provider in the community that strive in the world day by day with children, individuals with autism, it's providing support and giving power to individuals with autism with the condition that they have been struggling, also meaning recognizing and have the opportunity, recognizing the individual with autism and have the opportunity they deserve in our society, in our community. So this theme for this year is a very powerful theme, which is we're raising awareness, we're educating, we're raising our voice to let the voice of the people with autism be heard.
Very interesting.
And providing respect and support to them.
You established, and I wanted to ask you this, you established the JECC Behavioral Center in Massachusetts. Talk to us about why it was so important for you to put this together and some of the pressing needs now for people living with autism. There have been advances in treatment, but what is next?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I am the founder of JECC Behavioral Center, and we provide at the center mental health and ABA services. ABA is mostly an intervention that is found evidence-based to meet the need for individuals with autism. If I can explain it, it's a sort of therapy one-on-one with children and family that raising children with autism is an effective treatment that has been responded well for majority of individuals with autism. JECC has found from an inspiration to a mother who I am of a child with autism that faced a lot of health disparity, what created a frustration in me. And due to my also stigma and culture knowledge, I was able to go back to school to study.
Unfortunately, Madam Virginie, we have to leave it there. We'll have more on the radio show later. Thank you so much for joining us today. Virginie Kassiama is the founder of JECC Behavioral Center in North Andover, Massachusetts. Thanks, and that's all for today's Health Report. Esther?
Thanks, Lino. Be sure to watch Lino Mudu's Health Reports every Tuesday right here on Africa 54, and thank you for watching. We'll see you back tomorrow.